Imagine this. You're walking, maybe through a field. It's sunny, maybe you're a bit tired, and then you just stumble upon them. These bushes just loaded, absolutely laden with berries. Fat clusters, red, blue, purple, all stages of ripeness. So many, you can just grab handfuls. Your pail gets heavier and heavier, and it's just this unexpected bounty.
Right.
You didn't earn them, didn't pay for them, didn't really even work for them in the usual sense. And, well, there they are. A pure gift from the land. That feeling, that sort of sheer delight, it feels almost like a secret language, shared with the birds who are right there with you, happy as can be.
It's a really profound moment, isn't it, when you're just given something like that, so abundant, so delicious. It kind of shifts your perspective.
Yeah.
You could call them natural resources or, I don't know, ecosystem services, but in that moment, your gut just tells you they're gifts.
That intuition, it's really powerful. And that feeling, that immediate intuitive sense, is exactly what we're diving into today. This deep dive is all about unpacking that feeling of gift. We want to explore how it fundamentally challenges, our usual understanding of economics and our relationship with the natural world.
Yeah.
We're going to be looking at sources that weave together these beautiful personal stories, ancient indigenous wisdom, and some really fascinating ecological insights.
It's striking how much we often take for granted, isn't it? So today we'll be asking, what if everything we receive from the earth, the food we eat, the air we breathe, what if it isn't a commodity to be bought and sold, but actually truly a gift?
Right. So what did that change? How would that change how we live? To really unpack this big idea, let's ground ourselves in a very real example. A living teacher, you could say.
Okay.
The incredible plant, the serviceberry, or should I say Saskatoon?
Or Juneberry, shadbush.
Sugar plum, sarvis, boozakman. It goes by so many names.
And that's actually a key point. Ethnobotanists point out that the more names a plant has, generally, the greater its cultural importance.
Oh, interesting.
And the serviceberry definitely fits that. It's a real calendar plant. It's so faithful to the seasons. Its bloom tells you when the ground's thawed, or when mountain roads are passable for preachers back in the day, or when shad are running upstream.
Wow.
It was a critical guide for traditional indigenous peoples. They synchronized their whole annual round, moving to meet the foods as they became ready.
Which is such a different way of thinking than ours now, where we often, force food to come to us, whatever the cost, financial or ecological.
Exactly. But for indigenous communities, these berries were, and still are, central. They were vital for making pemmican.
The original energy bars.
Pretty much. Dried berries, venison or bison, pounded with fat. It provided full nutrition, easy to carry, used for trade across really sophisticated networks, both local and even transcontinental.
Amazing.
And this leads us to something really fascinating in language. The author, being a member of the Potawatomi Nation, shares that in Potawatomi, the serviceberry is called boozakman, meaning the best of the berries. And apparently the taste is incredible. Imagine a blueberry crossed with the substance of an apple, a hint of rose water, and this tiny crunch from almond-flavored seeds.
Wow, that sounds nothing like what you'd find in a store.
Right. Wild, complex. But here's where it gets really mind-bending.
Okay.
The root word min in Potawatomi, it means both berry and gift.
Both. Berry and gift.
Yeah. So blueberry is manan, strawberry is odamin, even maize, corn is mandamin. It's baked right into the language. This foundational understanding that these plants aren't just things to eat.
They're gifts, manifestations of unconditional love from, as they say, our plant relatives.
Exactly. And this view, it extends way beyond just berries. In the Anishinaabe worldview, all sustenance from the land, fish, firewood, medicine roots, trees for homes, even the paper in our books, it all comes from the lives of more than human beings. Right. It all comes from the earth.
So if we stop calling these things natural resources or commodities and start calling them gifts, our whole relationship changes, doesn't it? It's not just about what we can take.
It's about what we receive. And the big implication there is that receiving a gift inherently comes with responsibilities.
Responsibilities
like sharing, respect, reciprocity, gratitude. It turns consumption into an act of relationship, not just a transaction.
And speaking of gratitude, in that Anishinaabe worldview, it's way more than just saying a polite thank you, right?
Oh, much more. It's a deep recognition of being indebted, realizing your very life is nurtured by Mother Earth. Think about that pail of Juneberries again.
Okay.
It represents hundreds, maybe thousands of gift exchanges. Maples giving leaves to the soil, invertebrates building humus, a bird dropping the seed, the sun, the rain, pollinators like early spring flies.
Even the farmer who planted the seedling.
Exactly. They're all part of this vast gift exchange that ensures everyone gets what they need. It's a whole web of generosity.
This culture of gratitude, as the source calls it, found in many indigenous cultures. It naturally creates a sense of abundance, enoughness.
Right. If you actually sit down and count the gifts you've received, you realize you already have what you need. Which then raises a pretty tough question.
Which is?
Well, in a world that actually produces enough food for 8 billion people, why are people starving?
That really hits home. It feels like a radical act almost to recognize enoughness when our economy constantly screams more, more, more.
It is. And eco-psychologists have actually shown that practicing gratitude literally puts the brakes on that hyperconsumption. It lessens our feeling of scarcity, of wanting more.
So if we all just took enough instead of way more than our share.
The wealth and security we crave could potentially be met just by sharing what we already have. Could gratitude actually be part of the solution to things like climate change and biodiversity loss?
It really makes you pause and think about everyday choices, doesn't it?
It certainly does. And, nature itself gives us these perfect models for this kind of exchange.
How so?
Well, think about how materials cycle. Carbon, nitrogen, phosphorus, they cycle endlessly through an ecosystem.
Right, like the carbon cycle.
Exactly. A serviceberry takes CO2 from the air, makes sugar. A bird eats the berry, carbon becomes feathers. Feather falls, feeds beetles, beetles feed a vole, vole dies, feeds the soil, which feeds a new serviceberry seedling.
It just keeps going round and round.
Constantly transformed, constantly cycled. There's no such thing as waste in that system. And the deep insight there is that real abundance in nature isn't about limitless taking, it's about constant, smart recycling and shared benefit.
It's a living blueprint for an economy where nothing's wasted and everything contributes to the whole, a true circular economy.
Precisely.
But wait, if materials cycle perfectly, does everything work like that? What about energy?
Good question. No, energy is different. While materials cycle, energy flows. One direction.
It gets used up.
Right, and has to be constantly replenished, which is why the sun has always been revered, as the original gift, the ultimate source feeding all life.
Okay, that makes sense. So this cycling, this sharing, it brings us to shared resources, commons. And for a long time, the dominant idea was Gerhard's tragedy of the commons.
Right, the idea that any shared resource will inevitably be destroyed by everyone acting in their own self-interest, which, conveniently, justifies privatization.
But then came Elinor Ostrom, the Nobel laureate.
Yes, her groundbreaking work completely challenged that. She showed, through rigorous research around the world, that communities can and do successfully manage common resources collectively.
Without the state stepping in or selling it off.
Exactly. Through collective action, trust, cooperation, it turns that whole tragedy idea on its head.
And indigenous cultures, they've known this for ages, right? Through practices like the honorable harvest.
Absolutely. These aren't like written laws, but ancient guidelines, principles woven into daily life, a practical, ethical framework.
Like what? What are some principles?
Things like, never take the first one you see, never take the last, take only what you need and use everything you take, share it. Give thanks. Be grateful.
It's about consuming with this full awareness that you're receiving unearned gifts.
And caring for those gifts so they can keep giving. And it applies to everything. Berries, water, timber, fish.
So let's contrast this with standard economics. The definition you usually hear is something like the study of scarcity.
Right. Which immediately frames the world as inherently lacking, leading straight to competition and commodification.
But ecological economics offers a totally different lens.
Indeed. People like Valerie Louzadis define it more like how we organize ourselves to sustain life and enhance its quality. It's about providing for ourselves in a way that works with Earth's systems and human values. It's much broader, more life-affirming.
That contrast really jumps out when you hear that story, that wisdom from the hunter.
So the one from the rainforest, yeah, that's powerful.
Tell us about it.
Well, this hunter brings home a huge kill, way more than his family can eat. A researcher asks him, how will you store the excess? Thinking about smoking it, drying it.
Standard preservation techniques.
Right. And the hunter is just puzzled. He says, store my meat. I store my meat in the belly of my brother.
Wow.
And then he calls a feast. All the neighboring families come, and they eat together until every bit is gone.
That's the heart of a gift economy right there.
Exactly. Wealth isn't about hoarding. It's about having enough to share. The way you deal with abundance is you give it away.
And status comes from giving, not accumulating.
Right. The currency is relationship, gratitude, interdependence. The economic unit is we, not I. Because, as the author puts it, all flourishing is mutual.
It really makes you think differently about, well, stuff. How our relationship changes when something moves from being a gift to a commodity.
Yeah, the hat analogy is good for that.
Right. If you buy a woolly hat in a store, it's just a hat. Functional, maybe nice.
But if your auntie knits it for you, spends her time, puts her care into it, you're in a relationship with that hat.
You'll take way better care of it because it's knit from relationships, not just yarn.
That's the power of gift thinking, and it makes you question things we take for granted. I mean, what stands out to you about water, this free gift falling from the sky being sold in plastic bottles?
It feels absurd. Or an ancient forest being valued more as stacks of lumber than as, the Earth's lungs, or a source of wonder in life.
It is absurd, but our market economy normalizes it.
And this leads into that Potawatomi concept you mentioned earlier, the Wendigo.
Ah, yes, the Wendigo. A terrifying figure, a monster whose hunger can never, ever be satisfied. It represents this deep illness of taking too much, sharing too little. It's basically a cannibal consuming the world.
And you see parallels in the market economy.
Well, think about how scarcity can be manufactured where it doesn't really exist, just to drive profit. Water is the classic example. It's abundant, freely given.
Until it's privatized and sold back to us, sometimes creating demand by allowing public sources to become contaminated.
Exactly, creating artificial scarcity that, ironically, can lead to real scarcity down the line, shortages of clean water, clean air, fertile soil. That's the outcome when individual accumulation trumps collective well-being.
It sounds pretty bleak when you put it like that, but the good news is gift economies aren't just some ancient history or utopian dream. They're actually all around us right now.
Absolutely. Think about times of crisis. Rebecca Solnit writes about this beautifully in A Paradise Built in Hell.
What does she observe?
That in disasters, earthquakes, floods, blackouts, mutual aid and generosity just surge. Market impulses often get overridden. People freely share food, water, shelter. Things that were private property hours before. Bonds of ownership just seem to dissolve.
It shows we have this capacity, this instinct for it.
We absolutely do. And beyond crisis, look at everyday stuff. Neighbors sharing garden surplus, mountains of zucchini.
Little free libraries, campus-free stores, clothing swap.
The buy nothing movement online. These are all grassroots gift economies popping up.
Even in the digital world, right? Students often point to open source software like Linux or Wikipedia.
Perfect examples. Knowledge freely shared. Or think about YouTube or TikTok tutorials, people gifting their time and expertise to anyone who wants to learn knitting or fixing a leaky faucet.
And then there's that lovely story about Polly's farm.
Oh yeah, Polly and the Serviceberries.
She planted them, planning to sell them, needing the revenue. But that first year, they fruited.
She just invited everyone to come pick for free, despite needing the income.
Which seems totally counterintuitive in our profit-driven culture. Why did she do it?
She basically said, they're so abundant, there's more than enough to share, and people could use a little goodness right now. But she also knew it wasn't just charity.
How so?
It was an investment in community. She sees relationships as her real product. That act built goodwill, social capital, which likely brings returns in other ways down the road.
That's a fantastic example of biomimicry in action, isn't it? Taking cues from nature.
Exactly. The serviceberry itself is the model. It doesn't hoard its fruit, it gives it away to the birds.
And the birds disperse the seeds. Win-win.
A reciprocal relationship benefiting both. It really drives home that idea. Hoarding won't save us. All flourishing is mutual.
That's such a powerful idea. And thinking about change, how systems evolve.
Yeah.
The source uses the metaphor of ecological succession.
Right. How plant communities change over time. You start with these fast-growing, resource-hungry pioneer species.
Which are kind of like extractive capitalism.
That's the analogy, yeah. They're opportunistic, maybe destructive in a way, but eventually they create conditions for more persistent, cooperative, sustainable, mature systems to take hold. Like a forest replacing weeds.
So the question becomes, how do we help that transition along in our human economies?
Well, ecological succession shows change can be gradual, incremental replacement, but it can also happen through creative disruption, new things emerging in the gaps.
Like finding those gap edges, the ecotones the author mentions, places where new gift economies can sprout and thrive, even within the dominant market system.
Exactly. Those edges in nature are often the most diverse and productive places, full of life and possibility.
And part of this has to involve shifting how we measure value, right? Moving beyond just GDP.
Definitely. Frameworks like Kate Raworth's donut economics are really helpful here.
Explain the donut.
Okay, picture a donut. The hole in the middle represents falling short on essentials, the social foundation, things like food, water, health, education, equality. The outer crust represents overshoot, pushing past our planet's ecological limits, like climate change, biodiversity loss, ocean acidification.
So the goal is to live in the dough.
Exactly. The safe and just space for humanity. It means building an economy that respects both ecological limits and social justice. It values things like common lands, biodiversity, clean air, and also unpaid work like caring for family or growing a garden.
Things essential for well-being that never show up on a standard spreadsheet.
But are absolutely vital. It's about valuing what truly sustains life.
So this whole deep dive really feels like it points towards a different path. We don't actually have to be complicit in a system that maybe harms things we love.
Right, and remembering that definition, wealth means having enough to share.
And that the currency can be gratitude, kindness, relationship, which are infinitely renewable. They multiply the more you use them.
Even those small acts matter. Passing a book to a friend, sharing those extra tomatoes, these are like the atoms of a gift economy.
They open up channels of reciprocity, maybe without expecting anything specific back, but building connection, building community.
So we really invite you, the listener, to think about how you can reciprocate the gifts of the earth in your own life, in your own way.
Yeah, maybe it's through your time, your energy, political action, maybe art, maybe community work, whatever feels right. Become a member of the gift economy.
And perhaps, as you start thinking and acting this way, you might find something interesting happens. If we choose to lean into the abundance of gifts, the power of giving, instead of holding on to that illusion of scarcity.
What happens?
Well, maybe. The economy will shrink and our lives will grow.
The economy shrinks, our lives grow. What does that mean for you? Not just materially, but in connection, in purpose, in joy. That's something to really mull over.
A gift in itself, perhaps.